Hello, MCU fans. Today we're going to be breaking down the big reveals from Secret Invasion Episode 5, the penultimate episode. I can't believe we're 5 episodes in with just one left to go. So as usual, we will be having lots of spoilers here, so make sure you've seen the episode first. But assuming you have, then we'll dive right in and see what we can find out. So the episode kicks off in high gear with the president being brought into the hospital and them discussing what bad shape he's in, basically. They're going to have to crack his chest and do a laparotomy. So what is that, you ask? That is a procedure involving an incision through the abdominal wall, ouch, to gain access to the abdominal cavity for surgery. Oh my. So yeah, I'm still not sure why Ross is going to become president. I mean, it looks like he's not going to die. Ritson is not apparently going to die because we see him at least alive later in the episode. But is he so badly injured he has to step down? Maybe he gets impeached. I don't know. Throw in your guesses of what's going to happen. But yeah, bottom line is he's in bad shape. So Fury, though, nonetheless, tries to warn him, whatever you do, don't trust Colonel Rhodes. So it'll be interesting to see whether he actually heard that or not. And, whether or not he will trust him or whether he realizes something's up. Then we see the newscast. Now, this is really interesting. We see Talos saving Ritson. So, basically, the newscast saying Ritson is rescued from the assault by what eyewitnesses describe as a shape-shifting alien. Now, how on earth they got this footage? That's a different question. Although maybe there were satellites, following the president's convoy. I don't know. Let me know what your thought on that is. But the news gets everything, doesn't it? But this is really important because, as I suggested in the previous episode breakdown, Talos may have actually done his plan just at the expense of his own life, in that he basically saved the president. And now everyone's going to see that not all Skrulls, some, but not all Skrulls, are bad. So his sacrifice likely did not go in vain. Still stinks to have lost him, though. Gosh, I love Talos. Oh well. But yeah, his plan seemingly has been effective. Then we have Gravik. Boy, Gravik, on the other hand, his plan is not going so well. First of all, he's barking at his team, in particular Pagan, saying, hey, if you'd stolen what you were supposed to, I could have taken out the convoy single-handed. Now, I kind of think that's a little bit of BS, because the whole idea was they weren't supposed to reveal themselves as Skrulls. They were supposed to be Russians, right? But now here's Gravik going, oh, we failed because you didn't get the stuff. I don't know. That seems pretty lame. But speaking of, if you go back to episode 2, there was actually a mention of this. I totally missed it because I just didn't think these lines were relevant at the time. But we see Pagan talking to Dalton, the scientist, and she's saying, hey, you don't have it. And he said the harvest wasn't there. They actually mentioned harvest. Can't believe I missed that. And he said, Gravik has given me multiple locations for the harvest, all of them empty. Interesting. So now, Pagan's striking back. Pagan's pretty ticked. He's like, first of all, you ordered Fury's death when you knew Vara, Priscilla, would never do it. Now, this is interesting because in the last episode, I was theorizing that Raava might be Renegade because Raava said basically to Priscilla, hey, you're talking to me. You don't need to talk to Gravik. You're talking to me. So it sounded like Raava was maybe going a little rogue. Nope. We learned in this episode, hey, it was Gravik. Gravik ordered Fury's death. So at least Raava and Gravik are working together. But everybody else is kind of turning on poor Gravik. So then Pagan brings it up and says, you told me Fury hid the Avengers' DNA, but it wasn't in any of the locations you provided. No, Fury never trusted you. He's pushing it, and yeah, goodbye. Wow. Very violent death, very unexpected, and I think this is basically showing Gravik has just lost it. Because to do this in front of everybody else, and then to go off on him and basically say, hey, Pagan thought he had a voice, but none of you do. You're faceless and you're nameless. Wow. Now, maybe he was saying that because we're all supposed to be faceless and nameless because we're simming human forms, and we're not allowed to be our Skrull form and use our Skrull names. But I don't think that's how they took it. I'm sure they heard, we don't matter, and we might be the next one killed. So, yeah, wow, Gravik has lost it. Then he calls Raava, Rhodey, and says, hey, new plan, keep Ritson alive. Make sure he knows it wasn't the Russians who did this. Prove to him there are Skrulls living here in Russia and that they must all be eliminated. So what is going on, right? He keeps changing his mind. I remember at this point I was like, does he have a plan? I'm so lost on his plan. But I started to realize his plan was power all along. I don't think he even cares if there's World War III. And if there is, so be it. But he wants the threat of World War III to force Fury to tell him where this harvest is. So, very interesting. He's willing to kill his own people. We've seen that multiple times. Threaten them, obviously. Tell them they're all worthless. All because he wants power. Fascinating. Fascinating. So, basically, he's saying, it's not going to happen anyway. World War III is not going to happen because Fury doesn't want it to happen. He doesn't want to see innocent Skrulls die. Because, of course, if Raava gives up the base, the Skrull base, they're all going to be killed. But the fact that Gravik was willing to give them all up, willing to let them all be killed, again, shows this was all about power. He didn't want a homeworld. He wanted power. Wild. In fact, speaking of, he's sitting here saying, we failed because the president wasn't killed. No, he could have killed the president. He used his powers, right? He already exposed himself and used his powers there and killed Talos. He could have killed Fury right then, and he could have killed the president. But he didn't. No, he doesn't want Fury dead. He wants Fury to give up the location of the harvest. So this all makes sense now. That for all these episodes, we kept trying to figure out, why is he not killing Fury? This is ridiculous. Almost to the point of wondering if it's bad writing. Nope, it totally makes sense. Every single thing has been about getting Fury to give up the harvest. Wild. So it's all kind of coming together, all making a lot more sense. All right, so then we have another good showdown between Fury and Raava. Man, these two, I love it. But both actors, obviously, are fantastic, and then their characters and the lines are amazing. Raava basically saying, you're going to become the most wanted and hated man on the planet. Fury snapping back, tell Gravik, I'm coming for him. And Raava getting the last word, tell him yourself. So, yeah, these two, I love seeing them chew up the scenery together. Awesome, awesome. All right, so Raava, though, did what she said they would do, which is release the misleading footage. Release the footage showing that, supposedly, Nick Fury murdered S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Maria Hill. Wild. So now the world knows. And one fun little thing, this CUV News, the station, we have seen them before. Boy, you got to really look hard to find it, though. But thanks to the wiki, by the way, the Marvel Cinematic Universe wiki, best wiki on the planet, notice it mentioned CUV, that's them there, if you can kind of turn your head to the side, and this is from WandaVision. So kind of fun that they brought that back from WandaVision. And then also CUV News, as you can see in the lower left corner, appeared earlier in Secret Invasion as well. So I just love those fun little Easter eggs. Minor things, but just show the connectedness of the entire MCU. Love it. All right. So as I said earlier, now we see the president is alive, but does he know Rhodey's a Skrull? Did he hear Fury? Well, if he did, he didn't let it on in this episode, but I think next episode will be interesting to see where things go. So again, Rhodey sets this plan in motion for World War III, says, hey, Mr. President, this right here, this is a Skrull compound, and we need to take it out. We need to take it out. And of course, the president states the obvious. Well, if we do that, that's World War III. Yep. And that's the plan. That's the plan from the start. So, wild. And then we don't learn any more what's going on here. We'll have to find out next episode. But let me know what you think. Do you think we're going to move towards a strike on Russia, or is he going to call BS on Rhodey? It'll be very interesting to see. All right. Meanwhile, Gravik has to fight off quite a coup. Man, this was intense. Anytime someone gets the plastic bag over the head, it really freaks me out. So yeah, this was crazy. And what I thought was interesting was Gravik didn't really use any of his new powers. He just actually turns back to his Skrull form and overpowers everyone. So imagine if he had actually used some of the Cole Obsidian power. Craziness. And then, ends off killing everyone, including poor Beto, R.I.P. Beto, and screaming at everybody now who wants it next, basically. So, I don't think anybody's going to be following him. I think it's going to be Gravik versus Fury in episode 6, because everybody else is just pretty much done with him. Then you got Falsworth. Oh my goodness, Falsworth is just a gem. I love her. She's got to appear again after this series. So fantastic. But she is singularly focused on finding that scientist, Dalton. So first, she goes after the Skrull in her own midst, politely asking the location of Dr. Rosa Dalton before she shoots him in the hand and the knee. I love it. But why does she want this scientist? Remember, this is the scientist who, in human form, so well before the Skrulls were involved, was doing some of this research and then was taken over by Skrulls. And that's, of course, how Gaia got the information. And, of course, they've been doing this experimentation for a while. I really do hope they fill us in on why humans were doing this first. What were they trying to figure out? And as many have theorized, does this have something to do with mutants and the mutant gene? Because, at least in this case, they're unlocking DNA to figure out how to become super themselves. So, yeah, Falsworth just steals every scene she's in. I love, first thing she says when they walk in the door, "Oh, hello, Skrulls." She has no fear. No fear. And then she says, "I'm staggeringly versatile. To give you a couple of examples, I'm very good at being your bestie, and I'm devilishly good at being not your bestie." She is amazing. I love her. Absolutely love her. Well, clearly, she finds out all the information she's been looking for. She finds out about the DNA machine and basically tells them, start from the very beginning and don't miss out on a single decimal point. So, yeah, she knows everything now. Likewise, Fury's learning it, so it's all kind of coming together. So then Gaia and Fury meet in Brixton, and it's just really cool because Brixton, as Fury explains in the episode, is a haven for immigrants, or became a haven for immigrants from the West Indies. So it's just kind of appropriate and fitting that this would be the location where the Skrulls, immigrants, are meeting originally. Because remember, way back in the earliest flashback, this is where they first met and discussed with Fury on where they were going to go forward and how they would live on Earth. So, yeah, very cool. All of the analogies and just examples of how immigrants have to deal with being in another land, in another country, or in this case, another planet. But yeah, lots of good commentary that I don't feel is heavy-handed. Tell me if you think so in the comments, but I don't think it's heavy-handed, but it just really gets you thinking about how tough it is to be an immigrant. So yeah, Fury then learns about Gravik's plan himself. Learning what DNA did Gravik steal. And interestingly, she only discusses Colobsidian and Flora Colossus, which I had to Google that on once again the MCU wiki to learn that was Groot. That's the official name for Groot, Flora Colossus. I love it. But here's what's interesting: they still have not shown us this scene that came from the trailers, which makes it look like Damage Control is where they stole it. So I'm still holding out hope that someone from Damage Control is a Skrull. Cleary, hello. Phone call for you, Cleary. Pick up the phone. I think it's probably Cleary, but I think someone from Damage Control has to have been taken over by a Skrull or has always been a Skrull. But anyway, but she says, Gaia says, but he took those because he couldn't find what he was looking for. And of course, Fury knows the harvest. So yeah, it's really, really all coming down to the harvest and Gravik's plan for power. Again, to his plan for power. So then Gaia goes down a different chain of events and says, I want to bury my father. Now, I will admit, I think something got messed up in the writing here. Because how did they get Talos' body, right? I mean, at the end of the last episode, pretty much he was just left there. Now, I guess I would theorize, to maybe solve what is potentially a plot hole, is that the British forces, once they cleared the area, once all of Gravik's team had left, they took Talos. And then maybe Fury worked with Falsworth to get his body. Okay, but yeah, that was a lot going on there. And also it's interesting that I think, as we also saw from the trailers, the scene where Gaia was apparently there, with Talos when he died, that was cut. So I wonder if they'll ever release that as the deleted scene so we could see what originally the plan was. But anyway, that's not there. And instead, somehow they magically got Talos' body. And sure enough, there she is, mourning over his body, realizing that the final things she said to him were pretty hurtful, as we saw in the last episode. But yeah, she goes to Priscilla for help. That's Fury's tip, is go to Priscilla. She'll help you bury him. And, she says, Fury sent me here. And I'm guessing they wanted to make sure we had no doubt that Talos was dead, right? Because if you don't see the body, then they're not dead. Well, we've seen the body. And we'll take it a step further. We're going to burn it. So another interesting thing here, though, this point here where Gaia said, I don't know the prayer. And Priscilla has said, it's okay, I know it. This is another thing that can happen with immigrants. When you go to a different country, a different land, or again, a different planet, you stop doing the rituals you've done as a culture all your life, and you kind of adopt the new culture. So the young members of the society, like Gaia, don't even know what the traditions were. So, like I said, very very cool commentary on what it means to be an immigrant and how difficult it can be. So I like it. All right, so yeah, boy, torched, gone. Talos is dead. It's a real bummer. Loved him, and a sorely missed. All right, so then we also get some fun little things about Priscilla and Fury's past. You kind of wondered after the last episode, did they even like each other? I think they did, but they really seemed upset at each other at the end. But we really learned how much they loved each other. So this is interesting. Priscilla says, the last thing I said to Fury before the snap was, if you keep spending all your time chasing aliens, you might lose the one you married. But it's interesting that someone is referring to the snap. We hear so much about the blip. But here we're talking about, not the return, but when they all snapped away. So pretty cool to see the terms that we use as fans, showing up in the series. So I like that. Also, this is interesting. She mentions when she first picked this house. She says, I loved it ever since I set foot in it during a viewing 15 years ago. Boy, 15 years ago was a big deal. So it's if the series is taking place in 2026, we're talking 2011. So this would be before Avengers, but also it's when Rhodey or Raava said, 15 years ago, I was part of an Eyes Only top secret presentation. I'm still not sure whether that's even true or not, or whether that's BS, but nonetheless, man, 15 years ago, a lot was going on, clearly. So then we also see Gaia is kind of curious as a young Skrull, wondering how a more aged Skrull has dealt with being an immigrant again, and in particular, not having her own face. So she pushed a little bit and said, did Fury ever get lost watching you in your own skin? In other words, did he even see you in your own skin? And that's a good question. I am going to guess she did not turn back to Skrull form very often, because we learned in the last episode she was curious what would happen if she had. So they keep pushing these points, pushing what's it like to integrate in another society. I really like it. But so after they have some good commentary together, they have a good old throwdown. One of the best action scenes of the episode for sure. Fantastic. Seeing the two of them go back to back with their backpacks was awesome. And I love just how when they finish and the dust is settling, you still got one of the Skrulls hanging from their little rope thing for coming down. So love it. This was a really good action scene. They both handled it very well. All right, so then we have Gravik and Fury making a deal, where Gravik's basically saying, hey, we won't have World War III if you'll bring me the harvest. Again, all about power, right? And Fury's like, hey, got anything to do with the harvest? Your deal? Of course it does, because he wants that, and in particular, wants the Avengers DNA to become even more strong. And basically says, if I don't get what I want, the president's gonna bomb New Skrullos. So yeah. So Fury then gets some help from an old friend. I did not see this cameo coming. This was pretty cool. I've heard a lot of people didn't recognize him at first. I don't know why. Maybe because I've seen Black Widow a couple times. I recognized him immediately. I love him. Rick Mason is awesome. So yeah, he says there's an Interpol red notice on you. Wow. So yeah, this is the same guy from Black Widow. But here's what's kind of funny. So keep in mind, right? Secret Invasion is 2026. Black Widow is 2016. So this is 10 years later here. Dude ages pretty well, right? It doesn't look like he's aged 10 years. Of course, it's because he hasn't, because 10 years haven't transpired since Black Widow came out. But yeah, I had to crack up a little bit. I'm like, man, can I age that well? Wow, dude. But yeah, so he appeared obviously in Black Widow. He was great. One of my favorite parts of the movie. Yelena was the standout, obviously, but really liked him too. All right, so a couple more callbacks to other things, in particular Age of Ultron, when Fury says, I'd feel a lot better if we were on the helicarrier. And Mason explains, yeah, that's been mothballed. So first of all, unmothball it for goodness sake. Man, those things are awesome. But nonetheless, that's kind of a reference back to Age of Ultron, when, remember, Fury shows up at the last minute with the helicarrier and says, we pulled her out of mothballs with a couple of old friends. So Pretty funny. All right, so I hope we get a helicarrier again. He didn't say it's destroyed. He said it's been mothballed, so bring it back. And then only Mason could get in a dig on Fury as he walks out. And he says, try to get a nap. You seem a little grumpy. I'm pretty sure the last person that called Nick Fury grumpy, yeah, they're not here anymore. They're gone. They're dead. So, yeah, very funny. Hope we get to see him again. Great character, great actor. So, awesome. Then Nick Fury pulls a trick from Natasha's book. So, yeah. I figured that had to be him, but I began to wonder. But nope, sure enough, he's got on one of those face veils. So rips it off and gets in the vehicle. And then we learn, or we've seen this thing in action before. We saw it in Winter Soldier there on the left. We saw Sharon Carter use it there on the right during Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It was in the Black Widow movie. It's even been in several episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So pretty cool to see that thing come back. What I think is also interesting is it does make you wonder, is the reason this tech was even created to begin with because Fury was working with Skrulls, right? Because he was working with Skrulls way back in 1995. We didn't see this thing come into play until Winter Soldier in 2014. So it's possible that Fury said, there may be a day when I'm not working with these Skrulls anymore and I still want the ability, to change my face. So, yeah, you have to wonder if the Skrulls were the inspiration for creating this tech. Also, I'm still convinced Sharon Carter might be a Skrull, but people have said, well, why would she use the face thing if she was a Skrull? Well, she would do it so that you wouldn't know she was a Skrull. In fact, what a awesome bit of deception, right? If she's actually a Skrull, but use the face thing nonetheless. I think that's pretty cool. But anyway, I love this comment from Falsworth where she says, so $1 billion of research and development and the Widow's Veil all the Widow's Veil can do is cloak your face? Come on, right? First of all, Widow's Veil, that's cool that they've named it after Natasha. I love that. But yeah, she's basically saying you spend all this money, you can only do your face. What about the rest of you? And he implies that's the newer version, not this one. So that means there's a newer version out there, that they didn't just stop with the Widow's Veil, but even went so far as a full, body suit. Interesting. When will we see that? Will we see it in episode 6? Was this, an allusion to something coming up immediately? Or will we see it down the road? But yeah, they definitely were wanting to make sure that if they didn't have Skrulls helping them, that they had the tech to do what the Skrulls could do. Wild. All right, so then we finally learn all about the harvest. So Fury explains nearly every Avenger spilled blood in the Battle of Earth. And I think that's the first time we've ever heard Endgame, that big battle, against Thanos in Endgame, referred to as the Battle of Earth. So I bet that in Scott Lang's book, he's going to be calling it Battle of Earth, right? These are all these terms that we're now learning officially are in the MCU, not just things, that we as fans have used. So then he said, they all spilled blood, even Carol Danvers. The fact that he brings her up separately means that's probably what Gravik is really looking for. Although, honestly, there are a lot of heroes that would be cool to have their powers. I mean, if you think about the ones who, from a DNA standpoint, you could gain their powers if you had their DNA, Mantis, Spider-Man, Thor, T'Challa, Wanda, Valkyrie, Hulk. I mean, there are some pretty amazing ones. But admittedly, you could argue Danvers might be the best one to have. So I don't know when she lost her blood. It must have been when she got hit by the Power Stone by Thanos at the end there. But nonetheless, somewhere was her blood. And then Fury says in the aftermath, some were sent in to collect that DNA. So very interesting. This makes a whole different explanation for why Fury was standing there at Stark's funeral. He was probably sending people out as it was happening, as the funeral was happening, sending the Skrulls out. And he says Gravik was leading that team. So wild. Now, what they don't explain, and I kind of fear they won't explain in this series in episode 6 either, is why did Fury want the DNA? I mean, we know why Gravik wants it, right? He wants to splice it and get more power. Why was Fury capturing this DNA? And boy, oh boy, would the Avengers be ticked. Because remember, in She-Hulk, Hulk didn't find it very funny that there was blood sitting around, and he atomized it. He said, you do not want our blood in anybody else's hands. Well, I suspect every one of the Avengers would feel that way. They don't want anybody to get a hold of their blood, their DNA. So why was Fury keeping track of it? Was he going to try to clone them? Who knows, right? Hopefully they'll explain that, because that is a big, big question. But anyway, So now Fury's kind of fessing up. He's saying, you know what? This is probably where he, Gravik, got the idea for the Super Skrull machine. And Falsworth says the obvious. So are you responsible for all of this? And he says, yeah. Why do you think I came back? So, yeah, we kind of seen poor Fury. There's two reasons he's feeling terrible. He didn't get them their homeworld. And then now this DNA, whatever reason he did it, right? His little super secret project. Now that's come back to bite him in the butt because Gravik wants to create even more powers with it. So, wow. That's probably why Fury was so heavy in the first couple episodes, heavy with guilt in those first couple episodes. And he's finally becoming himself again, ready for action. So he goes to visit his gravestone, and it's a cool gravestone. You know, greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. A great verse from the New Testament. But very different verse from his other gravestone, from Winter Soldier, the path of the righteous man, Ezekiel 25:17, which of course is listed as a Bible verse, but it isn't in the Bible. That verse is not in the Bible because it's a quote from Pulp Fiction. So if you've never seen Pulp Fiction, check it out. It's awesome. Anyway, so then we get another mention of the Avengers, wherein Falsworth says, why have you not called down your special friends? What's going on? And I think we're all kind of asking that, right? Where are the Avengers? Bring them in. And he basically gives one of the best speeches of at least this episode, if not the series, when he says basically none of them can defend the world the way I can. And if that's not enough, then I don't know what hope we have. I'm like, oh, maybe you should call him in, though. But the reason I think he's confident is he knows there's not going to be World War III. He knows that Gravik wants this DNA, period. So I think that's giving him the confidence that somehow, one way or another, he's going to stop Gravik, and he doesn't need the rest of the team. But we'll see. I don't know. I think he needs to bring somebody else in, because Fury versus Gravik is not a fight that's going to end well. And then this is really wild. I love when Falsworth finally gets the fact that Fury's wife is a Skrull. Just the look on her face when she puts two and two together. And Fury says, yeah, now you understand. So that was cool. Considering these two were old friends, frenemies, if you will, it was good for her to learn that for the first time and really understand his motivation. So I got to wonder, is this just Carol's DNA? Or is this all of their DNA? I mean, I don't know, all mixed together, I guess, in a Molotov cocktail? I don't know. Let me know what you think. My guess is it's probably just Carol's DNA. But why just put hers here? I don't know. I hope we get a lot of backstory on what went on here. But nonetheless, he collects that, goes in, he suits up, puts the patch on, gets the gun, gets the leather jacket. It's the old Fury back again. Gets on the phone then, we don't know to who, and says, it's time, let's finish this. So last question for you is, who was on that final call? Now, the obvious answer, and the one that first came to mind for me, is Gravik, right? He's calling Gravik to say, let's finish this. But maybe he's calling in that help I was alluding to that he needs. So who might that help be? Well, the first obvious choice would be Gaia, maybe Priscilla as well, or maybe both. But certainly Gaia would make sense. But I've heard some rumors, some crazy ideas and theories. Maybe it's Hill. Maybe Hill didn't die. I don't think so. I think she's dead. I just can't imagine them tricking us like that. But nonetheless, that's possible. But also, could Hill really help? I mean, if Fury can't beat Gravik, well, how can Fury and Hill, right? Gaia makes a lot more sense. But also, hey, keep hope alive, right? Quake. Could Quake finally show up? Or someone from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? There have been so many rumors we were going to get an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. appearance. I doubt it. I really, really doubt it. I think she's going to show up later. We'll see her at some point. But I don't think it's going to be her. But that'd be cool. That'd be really cool. So my guess is Gaia, actually. Because I just can't see Fury going in there alone with Carol Danvers' DNA to take on a Super Skrull. Just doesn't make sense. But let me know what you think. Is it one of these four? Is it somebody else? And then last thing I want to point out from the credits, I've got to give them credit for continuing to feature the footage of Hill's death in each episode, so that therefore they had to credit her in the credits. And why do I say that's clever? Because IMDb gets the list of who's in each episode, and it already published that Kobe Smulders was in every single episode. So it made it all the more mysterious of, no one thought she was going to die because she was in all 6 episodes. Then when she died in the first episode, you're like, yeah, but IMDb says she's in every episode. Now we know why. Very sneaky. I love it. Even the credits are a spy game in Secret Invasion. All right, there you go. That is episode 5. Hope you enjoyed this breakdown. Don't forget, we do have a Discord server. I will leave a pinned comment so you can join if you'd like, and we have all kinds of conversations. Here we are debating and discussing the spoilers from episode 5. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we can all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, ever-changing Marvel Cinematic Universe.